Welcome back to Washington in Focus Daily. I'm TJ Martinell. With me is Tim Clouser, and we're discussing a very interesting story in which Spokane has 2 weeks to come up with a plan to provide clean drinking water to contaminated sites around the local airport. Tim, it's bottled water, right?
Well, they might have to provide bottled water. The drinking water, the source itself is contaminated. So the Spokane International Airport, big airport for Spokane compared to SeaTac, these other airports, much smaller. But regardless of that, um, Spokane International Airport and others around the country for years use this firefighting foam that contained these chemicals called PFAS. Now, the actual name of the chemicals is much longer, but that's the shortened abbreviation, and experts often refer to them as forever chemicals, just the way they persist in the water and the habitat for so long. But essentially, they groundwater sampling found PFAS in the water at the airport back in 2017. A year later, Washington State restricted the use of firefighting foams that contain PFAS. Nothing really happened in Spokane. I mean, there was a little bit over a few years, but in 2023, ecology really stepped in. And then in 2024 and 2025, ecology pretty much said, look, the city and the county, city of Spokane and Spokane County, they jointly own the airport. They're the liable parties here. There's going to be a cleanup. They're the ones that are responsible for it, and if they can't do it, then ecology might do it and just send them a bill for it afterwards. So last month, the city and the county entered into this agreed order with the Department of Ecology, which was essentially just stating what I just said. Look, you guys are responsible. You guys need to pay for this and clean it up. Here's kind of the guardrails. But there was a provision in there that said, look, if we find out that this contamination has spread to properties off of the airport, you might have to provide clean drinking water for them for however long it takes to fix this issue. And I knew, everyone else knew, it was widely reported that hundreds of residential wells around the Spokane International Airport were already contaminated and had PFAS levels that were above the recommended safety level. So they knew that this was coming. But on Tuesday, the city and the county and the airport each got a letter saying, look, we're enforcing this provision. Within 2 weeks, you need to come up with a plan to provide a source of clean drinking water to the West Plains, which is this area around the airport. So this report is due by February 24th. It doesn't mean that they need to provide clean drinking water by then, but ecology is saying, look, we expect this to start in mid to late March. So by sometime next week, this should be well underway. But essentially, they're saying, look, you either need to provide these point of entry systems, filter systems, which is essentially just like a filter that you would attach to one faucet. It's
Right.
that specific source, or they have to provide bottled drinking water. Now, that's the short term plan. By May, they have to come up with a long term plan, which is either putting these point of entry filters. Sorry, I meant to say point of use before. These ones, the longer term ones, would be point of entry, and that would be like a filter for the entire home. So it would cover all of the spigots, and they either have to do that or connect these parcels to the city's water source, which isn't contaminated. But essentially, it kind of just leaves them hanging. Both the city and county have grappled with budget deficits the last few years. So is the state. The state helped out a little bit with money last year, but they don't have the funding to do it this year. So some county commissioners are telling me that now they're putting pressure on the county and the city to fill that gap. And how big is that gap going to be? I don't know. We're talking about, ecology told me it's about 4,000 parcels. It's not going to be that many homes because a lot of those are vacant or already connected to city water. But it's likely that we'll see the city and county have to provide potentially bottled water to hundreds of homes in that area for the next several months. And we're talking a 30 square mile area. That's what ecology told me. It could be bigger, give or take,
How
but
many people are?
it's
How many people are?
considerable.
How many people would be affected or are being affected by this?
I don't know exactly how many. I know, so when ecology did some groundwater or private well sampling a few years ago, I think they sampled somewhere between 250 and 300 wells. And I talked to the ecology rep about this as well, and he said, "Look, we expect the true number of impacted people or impacted homes to be well above what we sampled, that 250 to 300, but they don't
Yeah.
expect it to reach the 4,000. So I know that's a big jump, but regardless, we're talking, say, even if it was just 100 homes. say how many gallons of water do you use in a day, to
Yeah.
multiply that by hundreds of homes, and then it's the city and the county having to provide that outside of the other water services that they're providing. This isn't something that was pre-budgeted for. This is a bill that just got put on their desk and said, look, we don't even know how much this bill is going to be, just start doing it and fill in the blanks later.
Is this something that could have been prevented or avoided? Or is that depending on who you
I
ask,
mean,
right?
yeah, I
It's
think it's going to depend on who you ask. I mean, talking to the county commissioner, one of the county commissioners, Al French, who's really spearheaded a lot of this work, um, he said that he, in an ideal world, he would like to see the FFA or the FAA step in and provide some sort of funding, because the FAA kind of provides guidelines to the airports across the country on what types of materials and chemicals they should be using and training with. And this was just the norm. Like, it's not, this isn't just a Spokane issue. This is a nationwide issue. I mean, I cover Spokane, so it's a particular issue for me, but the contamination is not unique to Spokane. Maybe it leaked into their water some more, but um, he kind of places blame on them. He's saying, look, we were training with what you guys told us to train with. So how is it our fault? Why should we have to pay to fix this problem that arguably wasn't caused by us? And
right.
I can understand that too, but uh, there's also there's claims through other reporting that this was an issue known for years, and that it was just kind of swept on the rug, or made to seem like it wasn't that big of a deal. There's this West Plains Water Coalition, which is essentially this local water advocacy group. They argue that the issue has been going on for not since 2017, but for years. I mean, that's when
Right.
they first detected it in the water. They were using these firefighting foams for many years before that, dumping a lot of this fluid and foam just onto the runway. In a presentation I was listening to earlier today at the airport, they were talking about how, a lot of this would run off into a ditch, and there's a ditch that connects, doesn't connect, but
Huh.
it's in very close proximity to the Spokane International
Right.
Airport, and then Fairchild Air Force Base, which is not that far away. And the Fairchild Air Force Base has its own issue with PFAS, but that's on the federal government to fix. But given their close proximity and this ditch in between them, it's contaminating all of that area around them as well. So when Ecology sent out this letter on Tuesday and said, look, there's this 30 square mile area, you're going to have to provide clean drinking water to them. They also said, look, if we find out that the impact is bigger than we first expected, then we're going to expand this map, and you're going to have to provide water to them as well.
I mean, it's kind of crazy that they are able to dump this stuff and it goes straight into the water, into the water supply. It can end up like that. And I'm wondering, what are the policies with private sector industries that use this stuff as well? Is there any type of regulation for them that's different? I mean, if it's illegal for the private sector, you think it would also, if for environmental reasons, it'd also be illegal. It doesn't, the chemicals don't suddenly become more environmentally friendly because it's being used by the government.
Well, I think when and I would need to do some more research on this. It was used across the country. I think it was kind of one of those things where they didn't realize how bad it was until later
I
on, and then
see.
it kept being used. Washington State in 2018, the year after they detected it at Spokane International Airport, whether or not that's related to the state action, the state passed this law restricting the use of firefighting foams that contain PFAS. So
Right.
the state tried to step in, but I mean, like I said earlier, experts call them forever chemicals. We could
Right.
stop using them today. It doesn't mean that they're gone a year from now.
Right. It's kind of the same thing with I think it's PCB, is a chemical I think was banned in the 70s, or it was used in the 70s, but it's banned now, but it's still showing up in the water supply. And so wastewater management treatment facilities over the years can't get rid of them because they don't go away. And so that's really interesting that they're facing this. I mean, what's the worst case scenario? This thing just drags out because nobody can decide whose responsibility it is, who's going to pay for it, or is
Well,
this likely to get resolved one way or the other easily?
we know whose responsibility it is and who's going to pay for it according to the paperwork. The state Department of Ecology says, look, it's the city and county's responsibility. They're going to pay for this. Um, if they can't figure it out, then ecology might just do it and send them the bill for it. But I think, how long is this going to take? They expect it to take a while. They're hoping for the long-term plan, like connecting those larger filters, which are more expensive, or connecting these parcels to the city's water supply. They expect that work to take place or to begin later in 2026, potentially 2027. So I don't really know how long the timeline is going to be here. It's pretty tentative. But at the same time, what is success here? Because you have Spokane County, it's a pretty rural area. Yeah, a lot of these are residential drinking wells, but you have a lot of farmland in this area. So you could say, oh, maybe 2 years from now, maybe they have these filters, maybe it's all fixed. But how many people lost their livelihoods in that time? How many people have
Well,
had their
and then
farms for
the
generations and
lawsuits.
lost it?
Well, and that's going to be an issue of the law, like potential lawsuits against the state, which is to say taxpayers are going to be paying and footing the bill. They're going to have to pay for the cleanup. They're going to have to pay for any lawsuits and damages that were incurred. It seems like with these forever chemicals, they don't know that they're forever when they first start using them, and then it's after the fact. So it seems like this is something that you know, might not have been avoidable, but we'll definitely be keeping an eye out on it. Thanks, Tim, and thank you all for listening to Washington in Focus Daily.